Beneath the ice and silence of the Arctic, some of the deadliest predators from the Ice Age are still lying in wait. Saber-toothed cats, ancient wolves, and cave lions so fresh, scientists are considering cloning them. These are terrifying frozen creatures scientists are too afraid to defrost. Deep in the frozen wilds of Siberia, a creature straight out of prehistoric times was found curled up in the permafrost, a baby saber-toothed cat. It was discovered in 2020 near the Indigirka River, and despite being over 35,000 years old, the thing looked like it had only been dead a few days. It had thick fur, skin, claws, even its internal organs. It was all still there, and yes, the tiny sabers too. Scientists think it might have been buried in a landslide and flash frozen before decay could even start, and wasn't alone. Another cub, a few years younger, was found in the same region, preserved the same eerie way. But nobody's rushing to thaw these little killers out. The deeper they look, the more they realize just how little they know about these ancient predators. There's something about seeing a baby version of something so dangerous, though, that just hits different. Like, it's cute, but also very much not. In 2016, a gold miner working near Dawson City in Canada's Yukon Territory came across something in the permafrost, a perfectly preserved Ice Age wolf pup, frozen for over 57,000 years. It wasn't a skeleton or a pile of fur and bones, it was an entire wolf, with skin, fur, tiny claws, even some of its whiskers were still intact. Genetic testing showed that it came from an ancient extinct branch, older than modern gray wolves, and adapted to a world most humans wouldn't survive 5 minutes in. They think it died inside its den. Maybe the roof collapsed, maybe the ground shifted, but either way, something sealed it in tight and froze it solid before decay had even had a chance to start. And that kind of preservation doesn't happen unless the timing is perfect, and honestly, it's a little creepy how perfect it was. The more scientists studied it, the more questions they had about its species, about how it got so well preserved, about what else might be hiding under the ice just as intact. In the Siberian permafrost, scientists found 2 cave lion cubs so well preserved they didn't really look ancient, they looked recent. But these weren't house cats. They were baby versions of Panthera spile, aka the Eurasian cave lion. These things were massive, possibly larger than modern lions, and built for brute power. They hunted mammoths, they hunted bison, they hunted each other. One study found bones of a cave lion that had been gnawed on by another cave lion. The 2 frozen cubs, dubbed Sparta and Boris, are estimated to be around 30,000 years old, and scientists still don't know how they died exactly, but they're so well preserved, they're actually talking of cloning. The thing is, nobody's sure what kind of animal behavior you'd get out of these things if you actually defrosted them. Their instincts are 30,000 years old and hardwired for a world we don't live in anymore. So what could possibly go wrong there? In 2015, researchers in Siberia discovered a frozen woolly rhino calf that had been locked in ice for over 34,000 years. Its name is Sasha, and it's the only baby woolly rhino ever found. And it's not just bones, this thing still had skin, hair, a stubby little horn, even muscle tissue. But don't let the baby part fool you, woolly rhinos were absolute tanks. Adults could weigh over 2 tons, with horns up to 3 feet long, and you'd think for their size that they'd be slow too, but fossil evidence shows they could charge like a freight train, and they likely had tempers to match. These animals were built for war against the cold, against predators, and sometimes even against each other. Ancient cave art shows humans were just terrified of these things, often drawing them mid-charge or goring other animals, or again locked in battle with each other. If anyone's thinking of cloning a few of these things, they better make sure the fencing is just really strong. You can't see them with the naked eye, but Deloid rotifers are kind of freaky. These tiny aquatic creatures were found frozen in the Siberian permafrost, buried 11 feet deep and at least 24,000 years old. Scientists thawed them out and they started moving. So after 2.5 ice ages, they just woke up. They also cloned themselves. Deloid rotifers reproduce through parthenogenesis, which means they've got no need for males. They can just endlessly self-copy, and they don't just survive cold. They can endure radiation, starvation, dehydration, even the vacuum of space. Their bodies will just shut down but stay preserved, and then when conditions are right, they kind of reboot. Now, scientists are wondering how long they can actually last and how many more are still down there dormant, waiting. In the icy ground of Siberia, scientists have dug up baby mammoths so perfectly preserved they still have eyelashes. One of the most famous is Lyuba, found in 2007 by a reindeer herder. She's around 42,000 years old, but she still has skin, fur, internal organs. Even the milk from her mother is still inside her stomach. Another calf, Yuka, was found with strange cut marks on her bones, like something or someone had been trying to carve her up. Could have been ancient human butchering, attacks from other predators, but the truth is nobody knows exactly what happened. Every time one of these calves gets pulled from the permafrost, though, it cranks up the conversation about cloning, but even if they could bring one of these things back, should they? Once again in Siberia and Alaska, scientists have found ancient bison that are so well preserved they still had red in their veins. One of the best examples was discovered in 1979, a frozen bison they named Blue Babe because of this bluish tint from the minerals in the soil. The thing had muscle, skin, even visible wounds. It had clearly been killed by something, and then it froze before it could rot. But here's something pretty cool. These mummified bison showed signs of being stalked and eaten by predators that do not exist anymore. Deep claw marks, crushed vertebrae, and punctures that match the bite force of predators that have been extinct for a very, very long time. And scientists haven't just found one, there are multiple ancient bison mummies turning up as the permafrost melts, and each one paints a clear picture of this brutal predatory world buried under the ice. They're also keeping samples for cloning research potentially, so if you ever wanted to see a prehistoric beast brought back from the dead, they are kind of working on it. In Yukon, Canada, buried in the permafrost, scientists uncovered the frozen remains of Ice Age horses that once galloped across the tundra in massive herds. Obviously, they weren't like today's horses. They were stockier, hairier, adapted to survive in some of the harshest conditions Earth has ever seen. One foal, perfectly preserved, was found in a gold mine in 2018, still covered in reddish-brown fur. Hooves, eyelashes, even its stomach contents intact. It was over 40,000 years old, but looked more like it had just lain down for a nap. The species, Aquis lambe, went extinct thousands of years ago, but DNA from these frozen animals are so well preserved sometimes, scientists are seriously considering using it for cloning. The idea is to bring them back, and not just as a curiosity, but possibly to repopulate the tundra with them to help slow permafrost melt. Because right now it's melting faster than ever, and we're seeing more and more pieces of an ecosystem that hasn't seen sunlight in tens of thousands of years, and not everything coming out of the ice is dead. In 2014, scientists digging through 30,000-year-old permafrost in Siberia found something that was very much not extinct, a virus, a massive one. So big you could see it under a regular microscope. They called it Pithovirus sibericum, and it's part of a terrifying new category, giant viruses. Two words you just don't want to hear right beside each other. Well, this ancient giant virus actually reanimated after being frozen for tens of thousands of years, and more of these ancient viruses have been found since, buried in melting ice, all still capable of waking up and infecting hosts. The one they revived didn't target humans, just amoebas, thankfully. But that's the part that makes researchers nervous. If some ancient virus can survive that long, what else is waiting to thaw? And are we even remotely prepared for it? Because you can quarantine, a lion, you can contain a mammoth, but a virus you've never dealt with before? Good luck. In Canada's Yukon Territory, scientists came across bones and fragments of an animal that sounds made up. Giant Ice Age camels. Yes, camels in the snow. Kind of a bizarre image. Not the two-humped animals we know today, obviously. They were massive and built to survive brutal cold, not scorching heat. They had long legs, thick fat stores, and bones tougher than steel. Fossils of these ancient camels were found in gold mines near Dawson City, preserved in permafrost so well, researchers were able to extract collagen from their bones, something that usually doesn't survive past a few thousand years. These camels would have roamed the same icy landscape as mammoths, direwolves, and saber-toothed cats. Some estimates say they stood over 9 feet tall, and while they might not look terrifying at first glance, just their sheer size, the power, the fact that they existed in this totally different version of North America, it makes them feel more like monsters than mammals. Scientists still don't completely understand how they adapted to such extreme environments or how they disappeared, but every time the ground thaws a little more bones come up, and we're starting to realize just how alien the Ice Age really was. Imagine a microscopic creature that can survive space travel, a 12,400-year-old puppy with its brain almost perfectly preserved. And what does a bison that's been frozen for 9,000 years taste like? These are more terrifying frozen creatures scientists are too afraid to defrost. What you're looking at here is a water bear. Which Star Wars movie is it from? Well, none. These things actually exist right here at home. They're just really tiny, thankfully, because that thing looks like something from David Lynch's Dune. Wouldn't want to live in a world where this thing was as big as even a regular-sized house cat. Tardigrades, nicknamed water bears, are resilient, rather fascinating little creatures. They're microscopic animals that are known for their ability to survive in pretty extreme conditions. In Antarctica, tardigrades have been found frozen in ice for thousands of years. What's amazing about these little creatures is their ability to go into a state of suspended animation. When conditions are harsh, like extreme cold or dryness even, tardigrades dry out and enter a kind of hibernation. When researchers thaw them out, they can come back to life. Water bears have even survived space travel in this dormant state, making them one of the toughest known organisms. Their ability to withstand freezing, radiation, and even the vacuum of space just goes to show that these little things may be the hardiest little critters on the face of the planet. Back in 2015, Siberian herders made a pretty crazy discovery. While looking for mammoth ivory in the frozen tundra, they found a 12,400-year-old puppy frozen in the permafrost. It was incredibly well preserved. The puppy's fur, whiskers, even its little nose was still intact, which is pretty unheard of for animals that have been frozen for, tens of thousands of years. And the craziest part is its brain. Most ancient animals that get frozen, especially ones that old, end up with their brains completely degraded. This puppy, though, had a brain that was almost entirely undamaged. Crazy. So scientists think this thing could have been a link between ancient wolves and the first domesticated dogs, which is also huge. The preservation of this puppy could help us solve one of the biggest mysteries in human history. How did humans first tame wolves and turn them into dogs? By extracting its DNA, researchers could unlock a lot of answers, giving us a better idea of when and how dogs became the adorable pets that we know and love today. In 2011, a team of researchers in Siberia made an absolutely amazing find. It was a bison that had been frozen for over 9,000 years. They didn't just find bones, though. The thing was preserved like it had just died the day before. The bison was covered in thick fur, it still had some muscle tissue, and even some of its internal organs, including its heart, they were almost perfectly preserved. And that level of preservation is rare for something this old, even when frozen. And this is absolutely nuts, kind of gross. So to make things even more surreal, scientists actually cooked and ate a piece of the meat. They were curious to see what 9,000-year-old bison tasted like. Turns out the answer is not much. Apparently it was chewy, didn't really taste like a lot, because that's what happens when your meat's been sitting in the freezer for 9,000 years. I would not have tasted that, I don't think. I don't care how many scientists are around telling me it's safe. I just don't really see the point. You guys go ahead. In 2018, Russian researchers found a horsefowl in Siberia that had been frozen in permafrost for over 42,000 years. What's so mind-blowing about this find isn't just how old it was how it was preserved. The foal still had its hooves, its fur, even its internal organs. But what really sent scientists into a frenzy was the fact that its BLOOD was still inside its body. Bodily fluids from a horse that lived during the Ice Age, preserved preserved for tens of thousands of years. Well, because there was so much of the animal still there, the discovery kind of got people talking about cloning. And it wasn't just a passing thought. Scientists started to seriously discuss whether this young horse could be the key to bringing extinct species back to life. I mean, imagine seeing a horse from the Ice Age galloping around again, just like something out of Jurassic Park. I mean, not as cool because it would be a horse instead of a dinosaur, but still an ancient horse. It's something, at least. In 2021, scientists discovered a frozen mammoth in Siberia, and this one was unlike anything they'd seen before. Most frozen mammoths are found as skeletons or with only small traces of flesh, but this one had actual chunks of flesh hanging from its bones. I mean, look at this thing. It almost looks like just a modern elephant. And again, it also had red stuff still in its body. Find helped scientists study how certain biological materials can survive freezing temperatures for such a long time. Researchers were able to collect samples of the BLOOD to analyze how it managed to stay in liquid form for so long, which could have massive implications for modern medicine. If scientists can figure out how mammoth BLOOD survived in permafrost, it could lead to breakthroughs in preserving organs for transplants, say. In 2022, scientists revived a virus that had been frozen for nearly 50,000 years. A virus called Pandoravirus yedoma was discovered in the Siberian permafrost. Fortunately, it only infects single-celled organisms, but the fact that something can survive being frozen for thousands and thousands of years and still be infectious, that opens up a lot of questions and concerns. For one, if a virus can stay in a state of suspended animation for that long and come back to life, what other dormant viruses or pathogens could be lurking in the melting permafrost? Scientists are especially concerned because climate change is causing permafrost to thaw at a pretty alarming rate, meaning more ancient viruses and bacteria could be released into the world. There could be viruses from the Ice Age that might be deadly to humans. You know, us modern folk just wouldn't have the immunity to them. Kimberly Miner, a climate scientist at the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory, had this to say: "There's a lot going on with the permafrost that is of concern, and it really shows why it's super important that we keep as much of the permafrost frozen as possible." End quote. Now, to some, an old virus trapped in ice suddenly springing back to life and spreading across the world sounds like a zombie movie plot, and sure, the chances of things getting that bad are slim, but these frozen viruses are actually sometimes referred to as zombie viruses, and scientists have discovered some pretty unsettling things in the permafrost over the years. For example, in 1997, a lung sample from a woman buried in permafrost in Alaska was found to contain genetic material from the 1918 flu epidemic. Then in 2012, researchers confirmed that a 300-year-old mummy from Siberia had the genetic signatures of the smallpox virus, and just in 2016, there was a small anthrax outbreak in Siberia, which affected a small group of people and thousands of reindeer. This was also thanks to thawing permafrost. On a lighter note though, let's briefly talk about nematodes, also known as roundworms. This is another type of microscopic thing that can survive through freezing temperatures. In Antarctica, researchers have discovered these tiny worms frozen in the ice. Like tardigrades, nematodes can enter a state of suspended animation when conditions become too hard, and when they're thawed, they can sometimes revive and resume their normal activities. Not sure what nematodes get up to, probably not all that interesting, but still they can go back to doing whatever it is, which is pretty cool. It's also pretty cool is that scientists study these nematodes because their ability to survive might give us some clues about how to preserve other biological material and learn more about how life might survive in other extreme environments on Earth or even out in space. In 2020, researchers discovered the preserved remains of a woolly rhino on a Russian island. It still had some fur, its skin, and muscle tissue. What made it even more interesting is that the rhino was still a juvenile when it died, likely around 3 or 4 years old. Now, why is this so interesting? Well, because it was so young, only about 3 or 4, it helped researchers learn more about what growing up in the Ice Age was actually like, what they ate, how fast it grew, what kind of hellish environment it was dealing with, and how these things would have developed as they aged. In terms of how it died, it couldn't say for sure, but it looked like it probably drowned after falling through ice into freezing water. Instant deep freeze. This thing kind of looks like a brick too. It's like flat. Again, in 2020, scientists found a bird frozen so perfectly that it looked like it had just fallen out of the sky. It was a horned lark and had been dead for about 46,000 years. 46,000 years, and it looked like this. You know, still not like a great way for your body to be. Obviously the thing is dead, right? It doesn't look great. But if I were just looking at this image with no context, I would have thought it was dead for maybe 6 months. Not, 46,000 years. The bird was encased in ice, which preserved it in almost the same way it would have looked back in the Ice Age. Scientists took DNA samples to compare it to modern birds. The goal was to learn about how species evolved over tens of thousands of years and possibly understand how the climate changes of that era might have influenced bird evolution. Also gave them a great look at how the Ice Age didn't just freeze mammals, it preserved all kinds of life forms. In 2019, reindeer herders in Siberia came across something pretty macabre but also really cool. A severed bear head, frozen solid in the permafrost. But this was a very old bear, a Pleistocene cave bear, a giant of the Ice Age that could grow up to 11 feet tall and weigh over 3,000 pounds. The head was almost perfectly preserved with fur, teeth, and even the brain still inside. The cave bear has been extinct for about 24,000 years, but this head was so well preserved it almost looked like it had been frozen yesterday. And I know what you're thinking, but no, they did not find the body. How did just the head survive so perfectly, and where is the rest of it? Was it scavenged? That would be my guess. Hunters would have probably killed the thing and then ate the rest of its body.
A living fossil fish that predates the dinosaurs, a colossal bee making a buzzworthy comeback, and a tiny mammal with an elephant's nose sprinting back into the spotlight. Have you ever imagined stumbling upon a creature believed to have vanished from the face of the earth? From the depths of the ocean to remote mountain peaks, these astonishing rediscoveries will challenge everything you thought you knew about extinction. Imagine discovering a creature believed to have vanished with the dinosaurs, only to find it alive and swimming beneath the waves. That's the incredible tale of the coelacanth, a prehistoric fish thought to be extinct for over 80 million years until one was caught off the South African coast in 1938. With its lib-like fins that move like our own arms and legs, and an extra lobe on its tail, the coelacanth is a living fossil that offers a window into our planet's distant past. Subsequent captures and photographs, including a new species found near Indonesia's Sulawesi Island, revealed that these mysterious fish were not only alive, but thriving in deep underwater caves. Their unexpected reappearance challenges what we know about extinction and reminds us that the ocean still holds many secrets waiting to be discovered. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Lord Howe Island stick insect. Picture stumbling upon a creature so rare it was thought extinct, surviving on a single shrub atop a remote sea stack. The Lord Howe Island stick insect, affectionately dubbed the land lobster due to its hefty size, stretching up to 12 centimeters long, was once so plentiful on Lord Howe Island that fishermen used them as bait. After invasive rats decimated their population by 1920, they were declared extinct in the 1960s. But in 2001, a daring expedition to the jagged peaks of Ball's Pyramid, a sheer volcanic spike rising from the ocean 20 kilometers away, led to an astonishing discovery. There, clinging to life under a melaleuca bush, a tiny colony of these giant insects was found and captured on camera. This incredible comeback story has ignited efforts to breed them in captivity with hopes of reintroducing them to their original homeland. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Fernandina giant tortoise. Imagine discovering a creature thought to have vanished over a century ago, alive and plodding along in the wild. That is exactly what happened with the Fernandina Island Galapagos tortoise. First found in 1906 and then presumed extinct after that lone specimen, hope was reignited when explorers captured on camera an elderly female tortoise on remote Fernandina Island in February 2019. This remarkable find was confirmed in 2021 when genetic tests proved she belongs to the long-lost subspecies. Now, conservationists are on an exhilarating mission to find her a mate and revive the population of these magnificent giants. In our number 7 spot today, we have Wallace's giant bee. For this one, we have to picture encountering a bee so colossal it's the size of your thumb. That's Wallace's giant bee, the world's largest known bee species, once believed to be extinct. First discovered in 1858 by explorer Alfred Russel Wallace in the Indonesian wilds, this magnificent insect seemed to vanish without a trace. For decades, it was considered lost to history until 1981, when it buzzed back into the spotlight, only to disappear again. Then, in a thrilling twist, a live female was captured on camera in 2019, her enormous jaws and impressive wingspan proving she was no myth. Nesting inside termite mounds on remote Indonesian islands, this king of bees reminds us that nature's most extraordinary secrets are still out there waiting to be rediscovered. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Somali elephant shrew. What if I told you there is a tiny creature that looks like a mix between a mouse, a gazelle, and an elephant, thought to be lost to science for over 50 years? That is the Somali sengai, or elephant shrew, a pint-sized mammal with a trunk-like nose and long, spindly legs that let it dart across rocky terrains at lightning speed. Scientists believed it had vanished since 1968, but in a thrilling turn of events, an expedition in Djibouti in 2019 captured this elusive animal on camera for the very first time. To their astonishment, they found that the Somali sengai wasn't just surviving, it was thriving with no immediate threats. This incredible rediscovery has reignited curiosity and wonder, reminding us that the natural world still holds many hidden treasures waiting to be found. In our number 5 spot today, we have the crest-tailed mulgara. You're trekking through the Australian desert and suddenly spotting a tiny furry face peeking out from the sands, a creature believed to have vanished nearly a century ago. That's exactly what happened when scientists rediscovered the crest-tailed mulgara in New South Wales Sturt National Park. This carnivorous but undeniably cute marsupial, weighing about 150 grams with pale blonde fur and a distinctive black crest along its thick tail, was thought extinct in the region due to predators like cats and foxes. Captured on camera during a routine survey for the Wild Deserts Project, this little survivor is sparking big excitement. Conservationists are now gearing up to remove invasive species and restore the mulgara's habitat, offering hope that these elusive animals will make a triumphant comeback. It's an amazing discovery that makes me question what secrets are still hiding in the outback. In our number 4 spot today, we have the New Guinea singing dog. Imagine trekking through the mist-shrouded mountains of New Guinea, where the dense jungle hides secrets older than time itself. As dusk settles, a hauntingly beautiful melody floats through the air, a series of harmonic howls unlike anything you've ever heard. Your heart races. Could this be the legendary creature locals speak of in hushed tones? Indeed. It's the New Guinea singing dog, a wild canine once thought to have vanished forever. Known for their extraordinary vocalizations that resemble a chorus of yodels and eerie whale songs, these elusive dogs were believed extinct in the wild for decades. Scientists had only studied them in captivity, where their numbers dwindled and their origins remained a mystery. But hope was rekindled when, in 2016 and again in 2020, explorers and researchers captured stunning images and footage of these animals roaming freely in the remote highlands. With their fox-like appearance, amber eyes, and a bushy tail, the New Guinea singing dogs are not just any wild dogs. They're living fossils, offering a glimpse into the early chapters of canine evolution. Their reappearance has ignited excitement among scientists and conservationists, sparking new studies to understand their genetics, behavior, and how they've survived undetected for so long. In our number 3 spot today, we have the terror skink. Imagine coming face to face with a lizard so fierce it's called the terror skink, boasting fang-like teeth and a menacing glare. First documented in the 1870s on the remote islands of New Caledonia, this 20-inch long reptile was thought to have vanished forever due to habitat loss and invasive rodents. For over a century, the giant terror skink was presumed extinct until daring expeditions in the 2000s captured it on camera alive and well on secluded islets. This thrilling rediscovery not only brings this formidable creature back into the spotlight, but also ignites hope that other lost species are out there, hidden in the world's unexplored corners, just waiting to be found. In our number 2 spot today, we have black-naped pheasant pigeons. Somewhere in the dense, rugged jungles of Papua New Guinea, scientists were searching for a bird so elusive it hadn't been seen by scientists since 1882. Just as hope began to fade, a camera trap reveals the impossible: a living black-naped pheasant pigeon. This magnificent, ground-dwelling bird, once thought extinct, was captured on camera by intrepid researchers on Ferguson Island after a grueling month-long expedition filled with steep climbs, roaring rivers, and relentless insects. Thanks to invaluable guidance from local hunters who knew the bird as awo, the team rediscovered this mythical creature in the nick of time. And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have the La Palma giant lizard. Picture you're standing atop the sun-soaked cliffs of La Palma, one of the Canary Islands' most enchanting gems, when suddenly, out of the corner of your eye, you spot a colossal lizard basking on a rocky outcrop, a creature thought to have vanished centuries ago. This is the La Palma giant lizard, a species once known only from ancient fossils and believed to be extinct. These magnificent reptiles, some reaching astonishing sizes, have been secretly thriving in the island's remote northern cliffs, evading human detection for generations. For over 20 million years, these lizards evolved in splendid isolation on the Canary Islands, growing to giant proportions thanks to the lack of natural predators. Their reign was unchallenged until humans arrived, bringing with them cats, converting wild landscapes into farmland, and hunting these giants, leading to their dramatic decline. But now, like something out of a legend, recent sightings and photographs have unveiled these elusive creatures, capturing them on camera as they lounge under the sun. Scientists are buzzing with excitement, scrambling to confirm the lizard's survival and learn more about their secretive lifestyles. Expeditions are being planned, and conservationists are hopeful that with protection, these ancient reptiles can reclaim their rightful place in the island's ecosystem. The thrilling rediscovery of the La Palma giant lizard is not just a scientific triumph, it is a captivating reminder that our world still harbors hidden wonders. It sparks the imagination and beckons adventurers and nature lovers to ponder what other mysteries await us in the unexplored corners of the earth.
This video supposedly shows a woolly mammoth crossing a river in Siberia. It quickly went viral, racking up 3 million views on YouTube and more. People couldn't help but wonder if the mammoth had been living for centuries in remote parts of Siberia, completely untouched by humans. Now, whether you think this video is a hoax or not, there have been some interesting reports of supposed living mammoths. They're believed to have gone extinct over 10,000 years ago, but there are still stories floating around about them being spotted in some of the world's most remote places, especially in the northern hemisphere's tundra. Native American tribes have been telling tales about these creatures for years. The Northeast Algonquins talked about a great moose with a weird extra limb growing between its shoulders that it used to prepare its bed. The Naskapi people from northeastern Labrador spoke of a monster with a long nose that it would use to hit people. Even Siberian tribesmen have reported seeing large, shaggy beasts roaming around, though no one's actually caught solid proof. There have been mammoth sightings across Asia, South America, North America, and Russia. What you're looking at here here is a massive-sized sturgeon. The footage originally posted by Ronald DeDrago was shared and reposted all over the internet, and it's easy to see why. The creature is just a monster. The sturgeon is an ancient creature that's been around since the early Jurassic period. Some of these fish can grow over 20 feet long, which is as big as a great white shark. They mostly feed on small animals from the ocean floor and are harmless to humans, but because of their size, they can still pose a threat. There have been reports of sturgeons leaping out of the water, landing on boats, and causing serious injuries or even death. They can weigh over 1,000 pounds. This footage here was posted to YouTube by Adam Pitts, who'd hauled in this Jurassic era-sized beast in Florida. A bunch of hunters had been trying to snag this thing because it was responsible for some deaths. No surprise there. This gator was not missing out on any meals. Pitts and his team had a long battle with the gator before finally hauling it out of the lake. It was about 12'8". It's sad, but unfortunately some animal populations just need to be controlled sometimes, especially when it comes to people's safety. This wasn't just a hunt for the thrill of it was for the protection of the community. This is not an AI video. This is a real piece of footage taken back in 2018 at a golf course in South Carolina. This gator was caught strolling through the golf course on its way to somewhere. It's become a pretty famous video. The event was taken by multiple people from different angles. Video of it showed up on the news, and it's understandable. It looks like footage of a living dinosaur. Even the family of deer in the background just couldn't help stand there in total shock. Like, what are we looking at right now? They're standing there like a deer in headlights. All right, I guess deer aren't really all that hard to surprise. But still, gators are some of the oldest animals on the planet. I still find it so cool that you really are looking at a living dinosaur when you see one. This footage here was captured by members of a Japanese expedition crew in the Congo. They were seeking out evidence of an elusive animal known to the locals as Mokele Membe, a plesiosaur-like creature believed by some cryptozoologists to be a remnant of the Cretaceous period. Mokele Membe comes from Bantu mythology. It's said to live in the Congo River Basin. It's described in different ways. Some say it's a reptilian creature, others think of it as a spirit, but the most popular description is an ancient dinosaur-like sauropod. In the early 1900s, cryptozoologists got really interested in this legend, with some launching expeditions to find proof of the creature's existence. Most experts believe that the stories about Mokele Membe are probably based on sightings of the black rhinoceros, which used to roam the region. Some even think the myth may have been influenced from earlier tales about Great Zimbabwe. This next creature is called Tuatara. Just look at this silly, stubby-legged little lizard. Cute as can be, according to me. I know some people are freaked out by reptiles and lizards, but I really enjoy them. So these things can be found roaming around in New Zealand. They look like a lot of reptiles you've probably seen, very similar to iguanas, but these things have quite the history. They've been around for an estimated 225 million years. So once again, they're basically living dinosaurs, just very small ones. Pretty cool. What's also interesting about these things is that they don't have ear holes like modern day reptiles, so their hearing is, of course, limited, but they can still respond to low frequencies. Next up, we have the Chinese giant salamander, and when I say giant, I do mean giant. These are the largest amphibians in the world. Some of them can reach up to 6 feet in length, weighing in at about 110 pounds. That sounds like a salamander that would have been roaming the earth during the time of the dinosaurs, and they did. The Chinese giant salamander has been around since the Jurassic period, about 170 million years ago. These creatures are also known for their very unique and haunting sounds. They've been described as rather unsettling. Some people describe them as barks or hissing, but the creepiest noise is the high-pitched crying, almost like a very young human. Given how huge these things are and the fact that they clearly do not look human, that would be pretty freaky hearing a sound like that come out of an animal like this. But honestly, I still think these creatures are kind of cute in their own weird way. And we have another dinosaur, the Komodo dragon. These things are insane. They're huge, some of the biggest lizards on the planet, weighing more than a full-grown human in some cases, and these things are as dangerous as they look. They've been known to attack and even kill humans, and to top it off, their bite is venomous. Scientists have found Komodo dragon fossils that are about 4 million years old. These giant lizards are found in Indonesia today, specifically 5 islands. One of which is called Komodo Island, which, no surprise, has the largest population of Komodo dragons in the country. You can't just wander onto this island, not that you'd ever want to. It's very strictly a guided tour situation. If you ever visit, trust me, don't want to go alone. If you stray too far, it could be the last mistake you make. Komodo dragons are no joke. Along with crocodiles and alligators, they're one of the closest things we've got to real-life dinosaurs. These reptiles can reach lengths of 10 feet with razor-sharp teeth and venomous saliva. They eat whatever they can catch: monkeys, deer, boars, goats, and, yeah, sometimes humans. They're just pure predators. Now, they don't attack humans all the time, but between 1974 and 2012, there were 24 reported attacks in Komodo National Park. The shoebill stork. These birds have been around for 30 million years at the least. If you were to look at every living bird today and you had to just pick one that looked like it had been around since the prehistoric times, it would have to be the shoebill stork, right? This is definitely the one I'd be picking. Look at the size of the beak on these things, very dinosaur-esque. Shoebills are found in the swamps and wetlands of Africa. They're massive birds, standing about 4 to 5 feet tall with a wingspan of 7 to 8 feet. They have this unmistakable shaped bill, which can reach lengths of up to 9.5 inches just on its own. This massive bill is a formidable weapon for catching prey, which is mostly fish. They're known to be very patient hunters, standing motionless for hours before striking at lightning speed. And these birds really are just as intimidating as they look. Highly skilled hunters that are capable of preying on animals as large as young crocodiles. And to top it off, they make this eerie clicking sound with their beak. They sound almost like an automatic firearm or the predator. What you are looking at here is a horseshoe crab. Now, crabs may not be all that exciting to you, but these ones are different. Horseshoe crabs are one of the oldest creatures on the planet. They've been a staple of the Earth for around 445 million years. That is a lot of years. That's back before the land split off to form the continents that we have now. Earth still consisted of one single supercontinent when these things were around. These ancient arthropods have seen old friends go and new ones come along, and when I say friends, I mean entire species evolve and then go extinct. They've seen a lot. And interestingly, even though they have crab in their name, they're not actually crabs. They're more closely related to arachnids. Imagine reeling in a fish that was supposed to have been dead for 66 million years. Well, that's what happened in 1938 when a South African fisherman unknowingly pulled in a coelacanth, a prehistoric fish that scientists thought had gone extinct right alongside the dinosaurs. How insane would that have been? This living fossil has changed almost nothing in hundreds of millions of years. Unlike typical fish, the coelacanth has lobed fins with bone structures that almost look like primitive legs, and some researchers think they sorta kinda are, in that they may be this evolutionary bridge between sea creatures and the first land-walking vertebrates. Even weirder, they don't swim like normal fish. Instead, they sorta walk through the water, moving each fin in a coordinated way that kind of mimics four-legged animals. And oh yeah, they also glow. Their scales contain a type of bioluminescence that gives them an eerie, ghostly blue shimmer. Even now, coelacanths are incredibly elusive, found only in deep waters off of Africa and Indonesia. They also live pretty long, up to 100 years, maybe even more, and they give birth to live young after an absurdly long gestation period. Scientists estimate it takes up to 5 years for baby coelacanths to develop inside their mother, so they're really strange animals. If deep-sea creatures had horror movie, the lancetfish would be at the top of the list. These nightmarish predators have long, ribbon-like bodies, oversized dorsal fins that run nearly their entire length, and razor-sharp needle-like teeth that jut out even when its mouth is closed. It's the kind of fish that looks like it shouldn't exist, and yet it does, lurking in the twilight zone of the ocean. One of the strangest things about the lancetfish is their diet, or lack of digestion, to be more accurate. When scientists have studied their stomach contents, they've found whole, undigested prey inside, as if these fish have no real digestive system at all. It gives them an almost undead-like quality, as if they're constantly eating but never fully breaking down their food. Lancetfish are also hermaphrodites, meaning they have both male and female reproductive organs, which makes them even more unique. And here's another strange little fact. Even though the lancetfish live so deep down, they've been found washed up on beaches fully intact, leaving researchers wondering why they suddenly appear on land. Are they dying off because of some unknown environmental factor, or are they being forced to the surface by something even scarier lurking down in the deep? The discovery of the megamouth shark in 1976 was an accident, and one that left scientists amazed. This deep-sea giant, reaching up to 18 feet long, has one of the strangest appearances of any shark species. It's got this massive, gaping mouth that looks like it belongs to some extinct sea monster. Unlike most sharks, the megamouth doesn't hunt with speed or brute force. Instead, it swims slowly with its enormous mouth wide open, filtering tiny plankton and jellyfish from the water. It's a bizarre feeding method for a shark, more like a whale than a predator. What also makes the megamouth so terrifying is that we simply don't know a whole lot about it. This species was completely unknown to science until 1976, when one accidentally got caught in a US Navy ship's anchor line, and since then only a few dozen have ever been seen. That means a giant deep-sea shark was swimming around the world's oceans completely undetected for who knows how long, proving just how little we really know about what lurks deep down in the ocean. The chambered Nautilus is basically a time capsule from 500 million years ago. Unlike most modern sea creatures, this relic has remained virtually unchanged since even before the age of the dinosaurs. It survived multiple mass extinctions and ice ages, making it one of the toughest survivors in the history of the planet. But what makes the Nautilus kinda eerie is its design. Its shell follows the Fibonacci sequence, and for those who are unfamiliar, the Fibonacci sequence is a mathematical pattern found in galaxies, hurricanes, and even in human DNA. Is this just an evolutionary coincidence, or is there something more mysterious going on? Some believe that this natural spiral represents a form of perfection, almost as if it were intentionally crafted by some unknown force. Now, unlike squids and octopuses, its distant relatives, the Nautilus lacks complex intelligence, but it makes up for it with one of the most efficient buoyancy control systems in the animal kingdom. It fills and empties its shell with gas to move up and down, allowing it to hover in this eerie, slow motion stillness. And how does it spot danger while living so deep down? Well, it has these large alien-like eyes that it uses to detect even the faintest movement in near total darkness. The goblin shark, this gorgeous deep-sea cutie, has a grotesquely elongated snout, rubbery pinkish gray skin, and its most breathtaking feature, that inviting mouth. Just look at those jagged, needle-sharp gnashers and tell me that you wouldn't want to kiss. Those jaws launch forward, by the way, like a projectile to grab their prey. First discovered in the late 19th century, the goblin shark remained a mystery for decades, rarely surfacing from its deep-sea habitat. Then, as commercial deep-sea fishing started to expand, more of them started appearing and showing just how bizarre this creature really is. Its hunting method is really cool, aside from the alien xenomorph jaw snap thing. See, instead of chasing its prey, the goblin shark senses electrical signals in the water using specialized organs in its snout, which is nuts. And then when an unsuspecting fish or squid swims by, its entire jaw explodes forward, grabbing its prey before snapping back into place. It's basically a biological harpoon, and it works so fast that high-speed cameras are needed to capture the movement. The goblin shark is a living relic, a species so ancient that it dates back over 125 million years, and I bet a lot of the animals that have to deal with it wish that it would have just stayed there. Alright, let's talk about sturgeon. You might be thinking, a sturgeon, really? That's just, a big fish. But the thing is, these fish are pretty much prehistoric monsters. Some species, like the beluga sturgeon, can grow over 20 feet long and weigh more than 3,000 pounds. That's too much, too many pounds. That's the size of a small boat, and their armored, bony bodies make them look like something that should have died out with the dinosaurs, but no, they're still swimming around in the depths of rivers and oceans, an animal that's barely changed in over 200 million years. People have mistaken them for sea serpents for centuries, and honestly, it's not hard to see why. There have been reports of massive, shadowy creatures surfacing in lakes and rivers, only for it to turn out to be an absolutely enormous sturgeon. And because some species live for over 100 years, you might just run into the same one that your great-grandparents saw, which is pretty cool. Now we're gonna get a little outlandish, but hear me out. The plesiosaur. It's supposed to be extinct. That's what scientists say, but for over a century, people have been spotting long-necked, flippered creatures in waters all around the world. Loch Ness, Lake Champlain, the oceans off Japan. Even experienced sailors and fishermen have reported seeing something that looks an awful lot like a living plesiosaur. One of the most famous cases may be the 1977 Zuyo Maru incident, where Japanese fishermen off the coast of New Zealand hauled up this bizarre rotting carcass that looked a lot like, well, a dead plesiosaur. Scientists quickly dismissed it as a decomposed basking shark, but some researchers just weren't buying this. The shape, the flippers, the long neck, it was all just a little too uncanny. If someone told you a sea serpent was caught on camera, your first thought would probably be like, meh, maybe, I guess. But then you see the frilled shark and suddenly you're not so sure anymore. Like, I guess, yeah, sea serpents do exist. The thing is pure nightmare fuel. It's got an eel-like body, rows of needle-sharp teeth, and a mouth that looks way too big for its head. It's been around for 80 million years and has barely changed at all, which tends to be the case for some of Earth's ugliest, creepiest animals for whatever reason. The frilled shark usually stays deep underwater, but every now and then, one turns up near the surface. One was caught off the coast of Japan in 2007, and let's just say it didn't do anything to calm people's fears about what might be lurking in the abyss. Scientists say it's harmless to humans, but honestly, if you saw one of these things swimming toward you, would you really care? You'd have a mini heart attack regardless. Now, horseshoe crabs don't look that scary at first. They're just weird, alien-looking creatures that have been roaming the Earth for around 450 million years. But when you realize they've survived multiple mass extinctions, including the one that wiped out the dinosaurs, you start to wonder what kind of deal they made with the universe. Have horseshoe crabs been the key to life all along? Well, here's something really cool. Their BLOOD is blue, and I mean bright blue, and it has its uses other than keeping the crabs alive, obviously. It's used in the biomedical industry. They harvest it to test for bacterial contamination in vaccines. So yeah, not only did these things outlive the dinosaurs, they're also aiding in modern medicine. Scientists still don't fully understand how they've managed to stick around for so long. Whatever they're doing though, it's working because they barely changed in 500 million years. And finally, if there ever was a real-life sea monster, it's the giant squid. For centuries, sailors have spun tales about this massive tentacled beast dragging ships under the waves, but no one really believed them. Then in the early 2000s, scientists finally got proof giant squids were real, and they were just as terrifying as the legends made them out to be. These deep-sea giants can grow over 40 feet long, and their eyes, some of the biggest in the animal kingdom, are specifically adapted to see in the pitch-black depths of the ocean. They use their long, lightning-fast tentacles to snatch up their prey, and their beaks are so strong they tear apart just about anything they catch. And let's not forget about their arch nemesis, the sperm whale. Deep-sea battles between these two have been going on for who knows how long, and sometimes washed-up whale carcasses show up covered in these massive sucker marks, proof that these fights aren't just tales told by sailors. Even now, we barely know anything about giant squids. They just live so deep that almost everything we've learned has come from dead specimens or very rare footage. There could be Godzilla-sized ones deep down in the ocean. Who knows? Homo erectus. These were the early archaic humans that evolved into Heidelbergensis, and from them came Neanderthals and Denisovans, or Denisovans. And then, of course, us, modern humans. So how cool would it be to see what some of the earliest members of the genus Homo were really like. Homo erectus is one of the most important species in the history of our evolution. They lived from about 1.9 million to 110,000 years ago, making them one of the longest living hominid species. They bridged the gap between the early Homo habilis and modern Homo sapiens. Fossils of Homo erectus have been found across Africa, Asia, and even Europe. This was the species that finally started venturing out into the world. They had a more modern body shape compared to their predecessors, with a smaller face and more elongated leg-to-arm ratios. They were a lot more bipedal, and their brains were still smaller than us ingenious modern humans, but were larger than species that came before them. They had more advanced tool-making skills, and they may have started developing more complex social structures. Speaking of tools, Homo erectus is known to have made hand axes and cleavers, allowing them to hunt and process food more efficiently. I've also talked about this before on the channel, but Homo erectus also may have made some of the earliest known art ever discovered, so that's pretty cool. Even older than Homo erectus again is Homo habilis. They roamed Africa about 2.4 to 1.4 million years ago. The name habilis means handyman, a name that they were given because this was the species that built some of the earliest stone tools ever discovered. Physically, Homo habilis had a mixture of primate and more advanced features. Their brain size was relatively small compared to later species, but it was an increase from the brain size of earlier hominins like Australopithecus. They had a more rounded skull and less pronounced brow ridges compared to their predecessors. They also built tools that were used for cutting, chopping, and again processing food. A big leap in technological development. In terms of their physical build, Homo habilis had long arms and a smaller body size, which a lot of paleoanthropologists think means they spent a lot of time in trees. At the same time though, they also adapted to walking upright. Their limb proportions were intermediate between more ape-like ancestors and later more fully bipedal species like Homo erectus. And in terms of how they acted, it's very hard to say. We don't have any direct evidence of that, but the fact that they made tools means they were at least beginning to engage in more complex social structures. Here's one for the Lord of the Rings fans. Ever wanted hobbits to exist? Because they did. They were called Homo floresiensis. Homo floresiensis, often dubbed the hobbits because of their tiny size. They're one of the most fascinating extinct human species ever discovered. These little guys lived on Indonesian island of Flores and were around from about 100,000 to 50,000 years ago. They stood only about 3.5 feet tall. But they were normal in terms of their proportions. It was like you just took a full-sized human and then shrunk them down in Photoshop. They were also pretty advanced. They crafted stone tools, and their small size didn't stop them from hunting and gathering. And they were managing to survive on an island with some pretty fierce predators too, like Komodo dragons, which, I mean, God, must have been like about their size. One of the big questions scientists are still trying to answer though is why these hominins were so small. The island effect was obviously at play here, where isolated populations evolved to be smaller because of limited resources. Perhaps a phenomenon that's often just called island dwarfism. Essentially, things just evolve weird on islands sometimes. But yeah, I would love it if these guys existed, an entire species of like little people, little hobbits. Now let's talk about Homo naledi. This species was discovered just in 2013 in the Rising Star cave system in South Africa. They lived around 250,000 to 300,000 years ago, which places them roughly at the same time as early Homo sapiens. They had a mix of old and new traits, like most of these on the list. Their brain size was about 500 to 600 cubic centimeters, smallish but not tiny. They had a somewhat primitive body shape with long arms and curved fingers, meaning they might have spent a fair bit of time climbing. But their skull and teeth were more modern looking, like those of later human species. What was really interesting about this find, though, is where these initial bones were found. Homo naledi's fossils were found in a part of the cave that was very tough to reach. They may have deliberately placed their dead there, meaning they might have displayed some early form of a burial ritual. The Denisovans, or Denisovans, are another fairly recently discovered species. They were first identified from a few bone fragments and teeth found in the Denisova cave in Siberia, which is of course where they got their name. What's really cool is that Denisovans lived roughly between 300,000 and 50,000 years ago, which overlaps with Neanderthals and early modern humans. Even though we only have a handful of fossils, scientists have been able to extract and analyze their DNA, and that DNA revealed something pretty crazy. This species overlapped with Neanderthals and early modern humans in a very intimate way. They interbred. They actually found the remains of a Neanderthal Denisovan hybrid, which was dubbed Denny, the one and only first-generation hybrid hominin that's ever been discovered. And there's still traces of Denisovan DNA in human populations today, especially in Malaysians and Aboriginal Australians. In terms of physical characteristics, Denisovans are a bit of a mystery. We don't have enough complete skeletons to get a clear picture of their overall appearance, which is why we gotta bring them back, see for ourselves. Alright, I'm cheating a bit here with this next one, but I just think it would be so cool to see one of these things in person, provided they were a fair distance away or we were separated by a very sturdy barrier. I'm talking about the largest known ape to ever roam the earth, Gigantopithecus. Not a human species, but a great ape. Distant cousins of humans, and they were around at the same time as our modern human ancestors, which is really cool, but must have been pretty intimidating. Gigantopithecus was kind of like the real-life King Kong of the prehistoric world. They were enormous primates that roamed parts of Asia between 2 million and 300,000 years ago. They stood up to 10 feet tall when on two legs. The first fossils of Gigantopithecus were discovered in China, initially identified from a set of massive molar teeth and jaw fragments. Based on these teeth and jaw fragments, scientists estimate that Gigantopithecus could have weighed up to 1,200 pounds or more. Imagine a modern-day orangutan, but several times larger. Now, despite their size, Gigantopithecus was likely a vegetarian. Their teeth were adapted for grinding tough plant material, meaning they primarily fed on things like bamboo and fruits. And this diet would have supported their enormous size, but they would have had to consume a lot of food to maintain this size as well. Their massive size might have been a factor in their extinction. They may have just struggled to find enough food to support themselves and eventually just died out. Homo antecessor is a pretty intriguing species that lived around 1.2 million to 800,000 years ago. They were first discovered in 1994 in the Gran Delina cave in Spain, which is a treasure trove of early human fossils apparently. They're one of the earliest known human species in Europe and provided researchers with crucial clues about how early humans spread across the continent. They're often seen as a bit of an offshoot of the modern human line. They had a relatively large face with a prominent brow ridge, but their teeth and jaws were more similar to later species. This combo of traits makes them another puzzle piece and just this overall understanding of how our ancestors evolved. They were likely quite advanced in their tool making. The tools found alongside their fossils suggested they used sophisticated techniques for cutting food, meaning they weren't just surviving, but adapting and innovating in their environment. Now, of course, human evolution is this incredibly gradual, ever-changing thing, not just a series of completely separate pieces forming out of nothing. But with that said, Australopithecus was super important in our evolutionary history because they were some of the earliest known hominins that were starting to walk upright. They lived between 4 to 2 million years ago in Africa, and there are several species within this genus, like Australopithecus afarensis and Australopithecus africanus. These were much more ape-like, but were starting to form more modern human features. Their bodies were adapted for walking on two legs, but they still had those long arms and just overall more ape-like bodies. The famous Lucy, a specimen of Australopithecus afarensis, is one of the most well-known fossils. She was about 3.5 feet tall, which kind of gives you an idea of their smaller size compared to modern humans. Up next, we have Dragon Man. Who wouldn't be intrigued by a species called Dragon Man? Their scientific name is Homo longi. They were identified from a skull found in Harbin, China, and have been dated back to around 146,000 to 300,000 years ago. The nickname Dragon Man comes from the site where this skull was first discovered, Longjiang meaning Dragon River. The skull of Homo longi is incredibly well preserved, giving us a lot of insight into what this species might have been like. The skull was large, hinting at a larger brain, similar to that of Neanderthals and modern humans. The brow ridge, quite pronounced, but the shape of the skull overall and other facial features are more advanced and closer to modern humans. Some scientists argue that Homo longi might be a direct ancestor of modern humans, or a sister group to Neanderthals and Denisovans. And of course, this list would not be complete without the species that came in second place in the race to dominate the world. They almost beat us, but they failed. The Neanderthals, a species we coexisted with and some say competed with for a very long time. Oh, how badly do I want to know what these things actually looked like and acted like. Were they violent and predatory to us, or were they friendly dummies who we preyed on and eventually killed off completely? There's still a lot of debate on that. What we do know is that they lived in Europe and parts of Western Asia from about 400,000 to 40,000 years ago. They were shorter than us on average, but a lot stockier and robust, built for more cold climates. They had a wide, strong body with barrel-shaped chests and short, powerful limbs. They had larger brow ridges than us, and jutting faces. They kind of had that stereotypical caveman look. A lot of people get confused and think that look was just us, but they were a completely different thing. I joked about them being dumb before as well, but they actually weren't. They had sophisticated tools of their own. They also created art based on paintings and ornaments found in caves. Neanderthals were also very skilled hunters, taking down very large game like mammoths and woolly rhinos. They would have been fierce opponents to go up against. If we were able to form technology advanced enough to resurrect extinct human species, Neanderthals would probably be our best bet. We have the highest percentage of their DNA in us today. We interbred with them. Genetic studies reveal that non-African humans carry about 1 to 2% of Neanderthal DNA. We're kicking off the list with a big one, the king of the dinosaurs, the Tyrannosaurus rex. This was a formidable dinosaur that lived approximately 68 to 66 million years ago during the late Cretaceous period. Known for its massive size, sharp teeth, and powerful hind limbs, the T-Rex was one of the largest land predators in Earth's history. The T-Rex could grow up to 40 feet in length and stood about 15 feet tall, with a large skull filled with serrated teeth, capable of crushing bones. It was a carnivorous predator, preying on other dinosaurs and potentially scavenging for food as well. T-Rex likely had excellent vision and sense of smell, making it a skilled hunter. The general consensus amongst scientists is that resurrecting dinosaurs is highly improbable due to the ancient age of their fossils, making the recovery of viable genetic material nearly impossible. Despite these challenges, though, the Adam Smith Institute is attempting to resurrect dinosaurs, including the T-Rex, by backbreeding flightless birds. Modern birds are considered descendants of dinosaurs, and the Institute aims to isolate their DNA and incorporate gene technology to recreate dinosaur traits. The Institute's vision goes beyond just resurrecting the T-Rex. They plan to extend this technology to revive more dinosaur species, expanding the controversial boundaries of de-extinction efforts. Number 9, the Velociraptor. Velociraptors were about 6 feet long, standing around 2 feet tall. They had a slender body, sharp claws on their hands, and of course that distinctive sickle-shaped claw on each foot. They were incredibly predatory. I'm going to start off with a quote by Madsen Peary, the president of the aforementioned Adam Smith Institute. Several species of dinosaur will be recreated, making their appearance on Earth for the first time in 66 million years. It will not be done a la Jurassic Park, with their DNA extracted from blood-sucking insects preserved in amber. It was always highly dubious that enough of the DNA molecule would survive in this way. Instead, dinosaurs will be recreated by backbreeding from flightless birds. Birds are modern-day dinosaurs, but they no longer look like dinosaurs. Deep within their DNA, however, will be information relating to the time when they did. And a combination of selective breeding and gene technology will be used to give them the characteristic features of dinosaurs. The jaws with teeth, the tail, the small forelimbs. Anyway, I can't imagine dinosaurs like T-Rexes and velociraptors being brought back and then released into the wild, because that would be a disaster and entirely pointless. This would definitely be a situation where they would be created purely for the spectacle of it, but that would be pretty ethically questionable as well. But now that we've established what these dinosaurs would be used for, basically being caged up for us to gawk at in weird amusement parks, let's move on to the next terrifying species on the list. Next up on the list is the Ankylosaurus. Ankylosaurus was a dinosaur that roamed the earth around 68 to 66 million years ago. It was a herbivore, but it was coated in this crazy armor. It was about the length of a car, covered in thick, bony plates all over its body. It also had a tail that ended in a heavy club type thing, like solid bone. Very powerful weapon. If a predator like Tyrannosaurus rex came too close, Ankylosaurus could swing its tail, delivering a bone-crushing blow. These were like tanks of their time. It wasn't the kind of dinosaur you'd want to mess with if you were another dinosaur. As for the idea of bringing them back, in theory, it's a possibility with advancements in genetic engineering. Scientists have explored the concept of de-extinction. This would mean extracting and manipulating ancient DNA, filling in the gaps with DNA from related modern species, and then finding a suitable surrogate for gestation. But again, all that DNA is really old, so it would probably mean something similar to the whole flightless bird thing, but I'm not a scientist and I don't know how the hell they're even going to go about that. But
in our 7th spot today, we have the goblin shark. Now, if you all have been a fan of this channel for a while, then you guys know that I hate this guy. Like, I'm not scared of sharks, but this guy, like, he's terrifying. He doesn't even look like a shark. He looks like a mutated shark, like a shark that scientists tried to cross with a human or something. Anyways, goblin sharks were believed to have gone extinct millions of years ago. That was until 1891, when researchers spotted it off the coast of Japan. Instantly, they were confused, but also scared, because again, look at this thing. What they found the weirdest though is that this shark barely changed over time. They didn't evolve at all. They still look the exact same, hence why they are called a living fossil. So these creatures can grow 12 feet long and can weigh up to 460 pounds. But in 2000, they found a giant goblin shark that was 20 feet long. So now researchers say that they have no real idea about how big they can truly get. Now the scariest part about them is that they have these weird ligaments in their jaw, and that allows them to extend their mouths out and snatch up their prey. Plus, their mouths launch out pretty fast. That's also why it makes their mouth look so creepy, you know? In our 6th spot, we have the tequila fish. And it's a very interesting name for a fish. I hope their relatives are called the vodka fish. So these fish disappeared from the Mexican wild in 2003. This was due to pollution and invasive species. People thought there was no hope, that these fish were just gonna die off. But turns out that conservationists were able to bring them back to life after a decades-long operation. Basically, scientists at Michoacán University in Mexico took 5 pairs of these fish in 1998. They then kept the fish safe, studied them, and then they made them reproduce to develop a larger colony. After 4 years in artificial ponds, scientists were able to increase these 5 fish to 10,000. However, only 1,500 were released back into the wild. And apparently, the released fish are thriving and reproducing out in the wild. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the coelacanth. You're not gonna believe this, but these fish were around when dinosaurs roamed the earth. In fact, they were believed to have gone extinct alongside the dinosaurs. Then, millions of years later, they were rediscovered. In the 19th century, scientists discovered a fossil of this fish. This fossil was over 410 million years old. They thought they went extinct around 66 million years ago. So it shocked scientists quite a bit when in 1938, they rediscovered them off the coast of South Africa. They're just alive and thriving. In our 4th spot, we have the singing dog. This animal has been named the singing dog due to their distinctive howl. Sometimes they howl together to form kind of like a choir. Apparently, their howls sound like a cross between a wolf's howl and a whale's song. They are also called the New Guinea Highland dogs and are closely related to the Australian dingo. Now, wildlife biologists thought that these animals went extinct sometime in the 1970s. However, in 2016, they were rediscovered in a remote region of New Guinea. Tests were run on them and it was confirmed that they were the same breed. In our 3rd spot, we have the tree lobster, which is not an animal, so I'm technically cheating having it on today's list because it's an insect, but who cares, okay? The tree lobster is a large black stick insect. In fact, it is said to be one of the rarest insects on Earth. Back in the day, they were popular for fishing, as they were used for fishing bait. But by the 1920s, they were said to be extinct. Basically, a ship accidentally crashed onto an island and rats aboard the ship got introduced onto the island and threatened these species. But later on, a pair of Australian scientists discovered 24 of these bugs living beneath a single shrub. They ended up taking 2 pairs, breeding them, and then reintroducing more of these insects to help repopulate them. In our second spot today, we have the night parrot. Night parrots are often referred to as one of the world's most mysterious birds. They were first discovered in 1845 and were extremely rare to spot. That's because they come out at night and only in remote areas. Even then, there had not been a single sighting of these birds for 100 years, so they were declared extinct. That was until 1979 when a number of them were spotted again. In fact, this bird is the holy grail for bird watchers. Some spend decades hoping to get a glimpse of this bird up close. And in our number 1 spot today, we had the Kashmir musk deer. But I like to call them the vampire deer because they have vampire fangs. So these deer are native to Afghanistan, India, Pakistan, and western Nepal. It was believed that they went extinct in 1948 until they were rediscovered in 2009. However, they are badly endangered. It's said that there are less than 5,000 musk deer throughout the world. The main reason being is because they are a very popular target for hunters. Hunters like to kill them for their musk glands, which are often used in perfumes. They are said to be a rare aphrodisiac and can sell for around $45,000 per kilogram. Now, it is illegal to hunt for them, but that still doesn't stop people.
Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot, we have the woolly mammoth. We would certainly be missing a very important animal on this list if we didn't include the woolly mammoth. These guys were of course a species of mammoth, and in fact, they were one of the last in line of mammoth species. Because of the fact that in both Alaska and Siberia there were frozen carcasses discovered, they're actually one of the most well-studied extinct creatures. Exactly why or how they were driven to extinction is widely debated, and another thing people like to debate is whether or not we should try and bring them back. There was a genome project completed in 2015, and since then it has been proposed that the species could be revived through a few different means, but no one yet has taken the leap. Here's the thing though, there's a new company that is pretty set on de-extincting woolly mammoths, and they have a new investor. This investor is called In-Q-Tel, and they are registered as a non-profit venture capital firm that is funded by none other than the CIA. They claim that the interest in this company is less about mammoths and more about the capability to do such crazy projects. What do you guys think about reviving extinct animals? Are we on board? Are we terrified? Let us know down below in the comments.
Number 9. Passenger pigeons. The passenger pigeon once ruled the skies over Canada as recently as the 19th century. Billions of these bright orange birds would paint the skies, but only a few decades passed and passenger pigeons are gone. They're just no more. Now we have the pigeons that follow you onto the subway, you know? What happened, right? The very last passenger pigeon was Martha. She passed away in the Cincinnati Zoo back in 1914. So we took a look at her DNA to see if Martha held any secrets to her past, and lo and behold, they discovered Martha had a low genetic diversity for such a growing population. Natural selection and hunting eliminated arguably the coolest looking bird alive. Well, not alive anymore. The last one died in 1914, but in 2019, paleontologists found remains of the pigeon in protected indigenous lands in Canada in the Northwest Territories. They blended passenger pigeon DNA with archaeopteric dinosaur DNA. So that's science for you. We're bringing back pigeons with a hint of dinosaur. What could go wrong?
In our number 8 spot today, we have the western black rhinoceros. The western black rhino was a subspecies of the black rhinoceros, and they made their home in the savanna of sub-Saharan Africa. These guys were unfortunately the victims of poaching, which led to their rapid decline. Isn't that a bit ironic? People got so greedy trying to kill these incredible animals so that they could make money off of them, and now they can't make any money off of them because they killed them all. What a genius business plan. Anyways, this species first originated around 7 to 8 million years ago, and for most of the 1900s, it was the highest population of rhino species. That all changed, however, as from 1970 to 1992, the population of black rhinos in general decreased by 96%. Other than poachers, another main culprit for the decline was farmers who killed the animals to protect their crops that were placed close to rhino territories. The last sighting of a western black rhinoceros was in 2006 in Cameroon's northern province, and sadly the subspecies was officially declared extinct in 2011.
Moving right along to number 6, move on murder wasp, Wallace giant bee, or the megachile Pluto is said to be back in action. In 2018, 2 of these bad boys were available for the highest bidder, and none other than eBay itself, the place where we're buying Pokemon cards. I just came across a Charizard, 25 grand. Should I buy it? Okay, so apparently you can buy this creature, like you can make a transaction if you have $9,000. In 2019, a single female was found in a termite nest and reopened the species as no longer being extinct. Well, here's a clip that I wanted to share with you guys. So 100% authentic and to scale. Okay. Maybe not, but could you guys imagine like that was the size of the killer bees? Like just absolutely massive. Alright, moving right along in number 2. So many of you guys think that Bigfoot is an urban legend. Well, I know that it's real. Okay, I never saw it, but like I've seen stuff like on TV and I think it's facts. Well, this creature that is like some kind of like half man, half ape that lives a lonely life in the wilderness, well, that video was from 2020 in Utah. It's pretty far away, so it's hard to tell, but I can tell. That's Bigfoot, confirmed. For sure Bigfoot. But if that's how big that thing looks from far away, like imagine how big it is when you're up close. Maybe like 20 feet. All I know is I wouldn't want to come across one. So this video was uploaded August 1st of this year, 2020. If it's not Bigfoot, then what is it? Let me know in the comment section below, what the heck creature did we just watch?
And at number 9 on our list is the quagga. The quagga were a subspecies of zebra on the southern tip of Africa. They were hunted to extinction, finally dying out in 1883. Now, let's jump to 1980. Some clever minds set out to bring the species back. Scientists delved into the DNA, and this was when it was first discovered that the quagga were actually a subspecies of the plains. That was the green light they needed, and in 1987 they launched the Quagga Project in South Africa. They chose 9 zebras, ones that shared traits with the quagga, and it brought them to a special breeding camp. They didn't stop there. More zebras were selected, each for their quagga-like qualities, and brought into the program. As the years passed, many baby zebras were born, and something amazing happened. They got results. 6 of these zebras turned out to be incredibly close to the original quagga. They weren't quite there yet, but they were similar, and they earned their own special title, Rao quaggas. Next up, we have the thylacine, aka the Tasmanian tiger. Now, this critter was like a mix of a wolf and a kangaroo with like a striped pattern going on. They look really cool. They were native to Tasmania, an island state of Australia, and they were the largest known carnivorous marsupials of modern times. Sadly though, humans weren't too friendly to them, and they went extinct in the 20th century. Fast forward to 2017, and scientists were trying to make up for humanity's mistakes. They managed to pull off something pretty amazing. They decoded the full nuclear genome of the thylacine. Andrew J. Pask from the University of Melbourne said the next move would be to create a fully functioning thylacine genome. It's going to take some serious time and research, but scientists are saying they might be able to pull it off and bring the thylacine back from the dead by 2027. It really helps with the species that they were around not too long ago. I think the last one died in like, I don't know, 1930 something, if I'm correct.
Number 7, great auk. Once thriving in colonies off North Atlantic coasts, the great auk would grow up to 30 inches long, and its tiny little wings would only be used to swim, so don't get too excited. These little balls of fluff did not fly in the skies. Their wings were really tiny. They were like 13 centimeters long, just little... They were cute, but quite defenseless. I don't know if you could have picked up on that. You know, very cute, very defenseless, obviously. Fluffy dudes. Around the 1500s, European fishermen discovered this perfect area for hunting, and it just happened to be where most, if not all, these great auks were thriving. Newfoundland, yeah, it looked like the iceberg in Club Penguin at this point. It was packed. It was a good time if you weren't a great auk. You were eating good if you were a fisherman, so their number rapidly declined. By 1950, the last 2 known specimens were hunted by one single fisherman on LD Island, just off the coast coast of Iceland. One dude just Thanos'd an entire bird species. What a monster. Scientists plan on using genetic information extracted from their fossils or preserved organs. You know, we love organs in jars. So they plan on editing their DNA with the closest living species, which is now the razor-billed auk. The organization Revive and Restore is behind the wheel on this one again. You'll see these names come up a few times over and over on this list because, yeah, not too many companies are trying to revive dead animals. What do you know?
Number 6, the Steller sea cow. Named after George Wilhelm Steller, who discovered this ball of blubber back in 1741. The Steller sea cow was first discovered during the Vitus Bering's Great Northern Expedition. They found her right after the crew became shipwrecked. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, here's a surprise sea cow to confuse you. Good luck! They were quite common millions of years ago, but sadly, and unsurprisingly, they were no match for humans. They only swam about a meter deep, so they were quite easy to hunt. George Steller assures that these creatures were made of pure love. They had strong bond with their families, which made it even easier to hunt. That's sick. Taylor. That's Taylor. Wow, that's really sad. What's also sad is my pronunciation of gestation, considering they had a 1-year gestation period. The species just couldn't reproduce fast enough to keep up with the hunting. But scientists were able to sequence their genome, which means we could see these creatures again one day. The answer may lie in the DNA of a dugong. Is that a Pokemon? That's a Pokemon, isn't it? That's a Pokemon.
Number 5, the dodo bird. So dodo birds were once big and beautiful. These flightless ground nesting birds once filled the islands of the Indian Ocean. They had massive talons. They were pretty scary. They were gray and blue, so they were beautiful. They didn't have any natural predator, right? This sounds great. No natural predator until we came along, of course. Around 1507, the island was discovered by Portuguese sailors, and the rest, yeah, you can guess. The rest is history. They were the easiest bird to hunt. Had the phrase dead as a dodo, right? They were easy to take out. They weren't just loved by sailors either. They were not 100% to blame here, okay? Monkeys, rats, pigs, any animal that made its way to the island just had their eggs for lunch. It was so easy. So it didn't take a long time for the dodo population to completely be gone. The last dodo was hunted in 1681, but could it be on this list? Could we bring back the dodo bird today? Hopefully, I mean maybe, I don't know. Scientists found an extremely well-preserved dodo skeleton back in 2007, so we may have a chance at picking apart some DNA. A research facility near Melbourne, Australia is currently trying to use pigeon genes to bring this bird back. Again, I'm all for science, I'm all for bringing animals back to life. You know, scientifically, that's a feat in itself. Great work, we love it. But do we really think no one's gonna make dodo bird chicken wings? That's a problem waiting to happen. As soon as I said it, you were like, oh, that would be pretty good.
Number 4, Pyrenean ibex. I'm just as confused as you guys are. That Pyrenean ibex went extinct 22 years ago. Last one was seen in 2000, my friends. The last one was a female named Celia. That's so nice. A falling tree sadly killed her. Oh my god. That's horrible. A subspecies of the Spanish ibex were once native to the Pyrenees Mountains on the border of Spain and France. Back in the Dark Ages, medieval times, their population was reduced drastically to an endangered level. They would roam the land, but knights with swords and bows and armies to feed, you know, you can kind of guess what happened there. Disease being spread by humans at this point also played an important role in their demise. Humans could barely keep up, let alone animals. The Pyrenean ibex was successfully cloned and brought back from extinction for a whopping 7 minutes. DNA from the last living lady was implanted into the womb of a domestic goat. Science is wild, dude. That's so crazy. Lung complications are why the clone didn't last longer than 7 minutes, but listen to what I just said. They made a clone for 7 minutes. It's a start.
Number 3, the Tasmanian tiger. Once native to Australia, classic, the Tasmanian tiger, also known as the thylacine, you have to say that in an Australian accent, the thylacine. It was a massive thylacine. I'm gonna say it all day now. It was a massive carnivorous marsupial that went extinct around the 1930s. So major factors here, as you probably have guessed, climate change, hunting, and its genetic diversity wasn't all too great. It's sad on one hand because these beautiful creatures disappeared so recently, but it's recent enough that we have a shot at bringing them back. Yeah, just back to life. Hi, that was a close one. Go hunt. Yeah, imagine looking outside and seeing this thing on your front yard. Are we ready for this? I can barely handle like deer in Canada. I don't know. Squirrels, black squirrels, they're scary up in Canada. I don't know. Thank God for those jars though. About time we open those up. Some jars of organs, classic. Already we have some of the Tasmanian tiger genes present after scientists, you know, inserted them into a mouse fetus and they're just waiting to see what happens. The Australian Museum has been working hard to bring this beast back to life and they're close. They're only still lacking the DNA fully to recreate it. So if you have any jars of Tasmanian tiger parts, comment down below, hit that thumbs up, let us know. We'll bring them back.
Number 2, the gastric brooding frog. That just sounds like it needs to be shot. I'm a big fan of frogs. I mean, I don't mind them. You know, they're green and stuff and they're slimy, I guess. They're pretty cool. You know, except for when they hatch babies out of their backs. Taylor showed me a video of that earlier and I almost threw up. There's a joke there somewhere, but I don't know. That's just gross, dude. Why would you show me that, Taylor? Frogs are wild, but back in the day, they were quite dangerous to be around. Gastric brooding frogs, for one, are so alien. These frogs would swallow its egg and hatch them from their mouth. No. So if you saw this in the wild, you would know. You might just see one soon. Maybe your kids will see one in the wild. Now, they went extinct back in 1983, but scientists have figured out a way to implant dead cells into a fresh egg from an entirely different frog species. Let's just hope these new ones aren't born out of their back and we're golden. I don't have to think about that. Oh god. Oh.
And finally, number 1, the Megatherium. Mega. Big last. Number 1, mega number 1. It's actually not that big. We talked about bringing back the woolly mammoth, so what other Ice Age cast member can we see in live action in the future? Let's see. Perhaps the Megatherium, aka the giant ground sloth. Yeah, they're kind of cute. They're scary, but they're pretty cute. They're slow and cute. Sloths used to be a lot bigger than we think. We often laugh at them for being so slow. The movie Ice Age sure didn't help their case as the dodo birds. Of course, the giant ground sloth is closely related to our modern three-toed sloth, but luckily for us, today's sloths aren't the same size as an elephant. Yeah, because that would be a horror film, wouldn't it? If a giant elephant-sized sloth started to slowly climb a tree outside of my house, I'd be sick. I wouldn't wake up. I'd be like, that's it. I had a heart attack. That's the scariest thing I've ever seen. We may be able to bring this one back, although they died off 8,000 years ago. It's still possible. Anything's possible with science and a little hope and fear. DNA samples were extracted from their hair remains, so the next step is to develop a fetus in an artificial womb. That's the hard part, so keep in tune for that. Keep in tune for that. That's the thing we like to say here. Keep in tune, guys. Keep in tune for part 2.
Number 8, the heath hen. That's interesting, I don't know anything about that. Here we go. Finally something that isn't the size of a minivan. I'm already excited. The heath van we lost quite recently actually, which of course is sad. We're losing birds rapidly, especially in North America. Our prairies are shrinking and they're being converted to agriculture. By 1870, the only remaining heath hens were protected in a vineyard, or a vineyard. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. But sadly, when 1932 rolled around, those fluffy dudes were no more. Also, Thanksgiving dinners didn't help. I get hungry sometimes. Yeah, we ate another animal to extinction. I'm seeing a pattern here. However, all hope is not lost for the heath hens, hence the title of this list. A company called Revive and Restore, good name, they're trying to get these hens back into the sky rather than back on our plates. They've been working with the community since 2014 with some scientific help from the prairie chicken. Before we continue, if you haven't done so already, go check out our sister page Bumblebee. Taylor and I break down top 10 lists, but it's all ancient history, medieval stuff, lots of knights. Lots of knights. We love knights here, and castles. So make sure to check out our Bumblebee Facebook page for more, and maybe some behind the scenes content. I'll see you there. I'll see you there. Maybe some Wild West stuff too, you don't know.
Maybe some yees or haws. I don't know. We may have done some yees haws.
Yo.
Thank you. That was great. Thank you a lot.
In our number 6 spot today, we have the Morian viviparous tree snail. This was a species of air-breathing tropical land snails that were endemic to French Polynesia. This extinction was actually caused by a chain of events that happened after something humans did. The African land snail was introduced into Tahiti in 1967 as a food source, but it quickly escaped and began to destroy crops. Biologists wanted to attempt to control the African land snail, so they decided to introduce the rosy wolf snail to the area in 1977. Well, this went absolutely haywire, as the rosy wolf snail didn't just control the population of African land snails, but rather started to eradicate all of the snails that were native to the area, which of course includes our little friend, the Morian viviparous tree snail. So this one little introduction led to them becoming totally extinct in the wild. These snails do still exist in captivity, and there have been attempts to re-release them into the wild, but the rosy wolf snail continues to prey upon them, so at this point researchers are unsure if it will ever be possible for them to live in the wild again.
Number 5, Megatherium, aka giant ground sloths. How lovely and terrifying is this one? Sloths used to be a lot bigger than we think. Yeah, we often laugh at them for being so slow and funny looking. The movie Ice Age certainly didn't help their case. Now, of course, the giant ground sloth is closely related to our modern three-toed sloth. But luckily for us, today's aren't the same size as an elephant, because that would be a horror film. We wouldn't be alive anymore. I'd be sick to my stomach. If a giant elephant-sized sloth was in that movie, that would be not a family feature film. That is terrifying. That's Jurassic Park now. But we may be able to bring this one back, although they died off 8,000 years ago. DNA samples were extracted from their hairy remains, so the next step is to develop a fetus in an artificial womb. Yeah, that sounds easy, doesn't it? Let's just do that, sure. Let's 3D print it. Number 3, the moa. This New Zealand bird went extinct about 600 years ago. The moa were these flightless birds, massive and terrifying, might I add, and archaeologists first discovered its fossil in a cave. Its flesh and everything was still attached. They had no idea what they were looking at for numerous years. And to be fair, yeah, it's haunting, it's terrifying. These ancient birds would reach about 5 feet tall, and when you think of dinosaurs, you probably think that's quite petite in comparison to, the scary ones. But the birds actually stopped flying right after dinosaurs went extinct because they didn't need to fly anymore. They didn't need to run for their lives. According to biologist Matthew Phillips from the Australian National University in Canberra, these birds were then safely able to roam the land after they didn't need to make these daring dino air escapes. It's beautiful. They just walked around, got fat, and would hang out in caves, then they eventually died off. Dare I say, the perfect demise. Phillips says this was an advantage when it came to birds and evolution because wings, big or small, they do kill energy. So it might seem a little depressing to watch a creature lose the ability of flight, but well, it's because they're eating good, okay? Good problems. Scientists have found more moa DNA from ancient eggshells, so yeah, it's a possibility we may see these fatties soar the skies once again. They just gotta, shed a few bird pounds, that's all.
In our number 9 spot, we have the Pyrenean ibex. The Pyrenean ibex was basically a wild goat. When people say that they love goats, I'm always a little perplexed. Why? Just why? Watch my dad will for sure watch this episode and will say something like, "Hey, I love goats." And yes, he does indeed. I don't know why. He's always sending me goat videos when he goes to his friend's farm. I shall never understand. Anyways, this wild goat was 5 feet long and apparently 30 inches tall. It was found in southwestern Europe, and the species died out in 2003, which is really not that long ago. I was 13. Shoot, I need to stop giving away my age. I was just born. Anyways, the last goat was born and died 7 minutes after its birth due to a lung defect. Hunting, inbreeding, and other factors basically caused this goat's extinction over time. Honestly, it's a bit of a shame that this goat no longer exists because it looks rather majestic, much more classier than regular goats.
In our number 8 spot, we have the Chinese river dolphin. It breaks my heart to think that a species of the dolphin might be extinct, but sadly it is. The Chinese river dolphin, known as the baji, sadly went extinct in 2002. It primarily lived in freshwater rivers, primarily in the Yangtze River. The main reason for its extinction is due to the impact of humans. It was directly targeted by meat lovers, but also due to an increasing amount of construction projects on the river. The dolphin, who relies primarily on its sonar capabilities, found it hard to navigate for food because of the construction noise. Pollution in the waters also didn't help either, as well as overfishing. The males were about 7.5 feet long, while the females could be about 8.2 feet. I have a soft spot for dolphins, so honestly, I really hope scientists are able to bring this one back.
Kicking off the list at number 10, Arctidus simus. Lions, tigers, and Arctidus simus, oh my. This one's really scary. Also known as the giant short-faced bear, the Arctidus simus went extinct only a mere 11,000 years ago. Yeah, it was once the fastest running bear that ever existed. So already, we have trouble. That's a terrifying fact. Its legs were much longer than today's bears. These were like lanky, fast bears. If the giant short-faced bear stood up on its hind legs, it would be around 13 feet tall. This thing was a beast. Today's bears also have different shaped toes. Today they have pigeon toes, more or less, but back then these guys had straight, forward-facing feet. So they were athletes, pretty much. Giant athletes with quick feet. Paleobiologists conclude that short-faced bears ate only meat. And given the fact that it was 11,000 years ago, I feel very badly for humans that found it. Well, with its powerful nose, realistically it would have found them. Yeah, the giant short-faced bear, I'm gonna say its full name every time. Also, I'm not just gonna say this bear, I'm gonna say the giant short-faced bear every time. The giant short-faced bear needed around 35 pounds of meat every day to survive. That's a lot of food. That's a lot of porridge. Yeah, I hope my porridge isn't too hot. Please God, don't let him burn his bare lips on my porridge. He's gonna eat me. These things are scary, honestly. Like, they're always like scary photos, like drawings of it too. Well, obviously there's no photos. Number 9, Spinosaurus. Yes, another Jurassic Park star, and rightfully so. Look at this thing. The largest carnivorous dinosaur of all time, even bigger than a T-Rex. Can you imagine that? 93 million years ago, they stopped terrorizing the lands of what is now Egypt and Morocco. And if you didn't already guess, its name translates to spine lizard, hence the spine stuff. And that spine was quite long. It was its main feature, you know? The Spinosaurus would measure up to 60 feet long, and aside for its back, one of the most notable features is its 6-foot-long head. It's got a massive head, man. Its mouth was similar to a crocodile's with straight, sharp teeth, not curved teeth. Straight, like a vampire. These straight teeth could stab right through anything, any fish, just a big skewer for a tooth, no problem. Paleontologists from the University of Pennsylvania believe that this guy used to swim as well. Nice, even scarier, because where the first Spinosaurus fossils were found, well, that used to be by Haria Oasis in Egypt, which was a massive swamp. Water or land, I want nothing to do with this guy. Next. Number 8, Mega Piranha. Don't have to say much about this one. What if I just said Mega Piranha and then it was just the next point? You're like, oh, fair. These things, for starters, were much bigger than today's piranhas, obviously, hence their name. They came in at around 1 meter long. They ruled the waters around Argentina around 6 million years ago, so skinny dipping probably wasn't a thing. I hope not. Its bite force was 50 times its own weight, and like I said earlier, Mega Piranha, bigger. This thing was huge. It was bigger, it was badder, it was weightier, had more to it. Mega Piranha would be around 30 pounds on average. Its bite can outchomp Megalodon any day. Any Tuesday. Even today, the word piranha makes people scared, it makes people anxious. As I was writing this, I was like, oh, I wasn't looking. Because our modern day black piranha, although sure it's only, 2 pounds, its razor sharp teeth can still take a chunk out of you. It's still quite dangerous. Yeah, but they didn't mention any of that in 3D Piranha Double D Part 3 or whatever we're watching now. These things are scary.
In our number 4 spot, we have the saber-toothed tiger. Okay, if scientists brought back this species, this would be insane. But do we really need another predatory species that want humans to die? We already have to deal with, lions, tigers, and the reptiles in our government, so I think I speak for all of us when I say this isn't necessary. But would be cool to witness. The saber-toothed tiger has been a wonder to many for so long. They are famously known for their long, curved canine teeth. It could weigh anywhere between 485 pounds to 961 pounds. It was approximately 39 inches tall. Its closest relative is the tiger, of course. They originated in North and South America about 10,000 years ago, so it would be extraordinary if scientists found a way to bring them out of extinction. In our number 3 spot, we have the glyptodont. The glyptodont is a larger subfamily of the armadillo. They were around from approximately 34 million years ago in South America, and when the continents became connected, they spread to North America. They were about 12 feet long and 1.5 feet high. They had fluted teeth, and they were covered in a thick, bony carapace. They went extinct approximately 7,000 to 8,000 years ago. It's so interesting how much bigger animals were thousands of years ago, and now all of these big animals have much smaller subfamilies that are alive today. I mean, obviously that's better for us humans, as the less threats we have physically, the better, but still interesting to note. In our number 1 spot, we have the ground sloth. The ground sloth is from South Africa and went extinct approximately 11,000 years ago, and some of the species of ground sloths have been extinct longer. The Megatherium, for example, has been extinct for 12,000 years, and this one in particular looks more like a bear than a sloth. It was massive and could be up to 20 feet tall, weighing about 6,600 pounds. Imagine these sloths were just roaming the world today. There are already enough scary bears in the world. I feel like, we're good without this one. But still, this would be an unbelievable breakthrough if we could bring back these creatures. Although I am sure that they wouldn't be as friendly as Sid from Ice Age. That short, cute little guy wouldn't hurt a fly. His lisp is literally the cutest thing in the world. But anyways, would be cool if they came back.
Number 7, Helicoprion. Perhaps one of the weirdest sea creatures to ever exist. 250 million years ago, that is. This thing looks like a shark, but scientists now know that it was related to chimeras, a fish that separated from the shark family 400 million years ago. Yeah, they were like, I don't like this family. I got some things going on in my mouth. See you later. Good. The 25-foot-long fish was first discovered by Andrei Zarpinsky in Russia back in 1889. He got the name Helicoprion because it translates to spiral saw. Yeah, in their mouth. Horrible. This guy found teeth fossilized in a spiral formation. What a find. He must have been scratching his head for months. Paleontologists all agree today that this was not part of a fin. It wasn't a wacky spinal cord. This guy wasn't, all goofed up, but rather it was its teeth. It was teeth coiled up, attached to the lower jaw of the fish, and its grasp was the same power roughly to that of a crocodile. Yeah, that's the worst thing I could imagine. So new teeth would form, and in turn these spirals would get longer and curlier. Adult fish would have 4 full rotations in their mouths. Rotations of teeth, that's horrible. 4 rows of teeth. Can you imagine? I thought wisdom teeth sucked. Ugh. Number 6, Liopleurodon. Translating to smooth-sided teeth. Nice, sounds a little fun, dare I say. The Liopleurodon was anything but a smooth sailor. It was a massive marine reptile from the Mesozoic era, first discovered in the 1800s. It was excavated in France back in 1873. All they got was 3 teeth, and that was enough. But when it was featured in 1999's Walking with Dinosaurs, the BBC series, it was shown as this massive 80-foot long pliosaur. But they were basing that size off of its skull, which we now know is just much larger than the rest of its body. We got too excited. The thing's literally a bobblehead of a dinosaur, and we're like, yeah, it was bigger, maybe, I don't know. Pliosaurs were the apex predators in Europe. 160 million years ago, most of it was covered in shallow water, so this guy would use its 4 flipper feet to stalk its prey. And researchers believe its snout was a key asset in hunting. He would just sniff for you. They didn't have any gills, so they did need to come up for air every now and then. Again, imagine this big head just appearing out of nowhere and just sniffing you, going back in. That's the Loch Ness Monster for sure. Number 4, Elasmosaurus. First discovered in 1868, a military doctor in Kansas found this creature's fossil, passed it along to American paleontologist Edward Cope, who named the plesiosaur. Its neck contained 71 vertebrae. I think I have like 56. I'm pretty close. Not as long, but definitely in the same family, for sure, as this guy. It was super long, which came in handy during those deep dinner dives. When I say long, the Elasmosaurus was around 50 feet in length, so it didn't need to go that close to the surface to get air. He just kind of leaned back and he was good. There's people out there that believe the Loch Ness Monster is just one of these things still swimming around. Honestly, as far as things go, that's probably the best guess. It's probably some sort of version of that, if it exists. Its teeth were sharp enough to eat anything that could fit into its mouth. And just 2 years ago, scientists have unearthed the largest known Elasmosaur. This thing has been sitting there since the Cretaceous period waiting for us. And I'll be honest, I sure hope we don't find any more, because one water dragon is enough for me. I believe. Great. Stop. Number 3, direwolves. We'll go a little nicer before we get to our last haunting too. If you're from South Westeros, this one might hit close to home. Around 10,000 years ago, pretty recently, direwolves were still a thing. They were pretty common. And if you watch Game of Thrones, you're probably nodding your head right now. It's pretty fun, right? You're getting hyped, or you're getting tissues, either way, spoilers. Canis dirus, aka direwolves, these beasts were a lot bigger than our average gray wolf. It wasn't like a mega wolf with 3 heads or anything, but it still did weigh a lot more. It was eating good as well. Their jaws were much stronger back in the day, so they could chomp their way through pretty much anyone and anything. Believe it or not, direwolves would actually hunt down and eat horses. Yeah, after studying their teeth, that was their go-to snack. But they were always easy to catch, I guess. If you're a wolf, they're no problem. Fast versus fast, I would hate to see that. That'd be so scary. Currently, if you're in the market for seeing 400 direwolf skulls yourself, weird, but here you go. You gotta head to the Page Museum in Southern California. They found hundreds of thousands of skulls in tar pits. So, if you don't believe in these things, here you go, history. To thousands of skulls ought to change your mind.
Starting off this countdown, we have the extinct bat. In 2019, the Hill's horseshoe bat species were spotted for the first time in 40 years. The bats are home to a Rwandan rainforest. Scientists figured that they were endangered and had gone extinct already, since they hadn't seen them in years. That was until 2019 when scientists were on a 10-day expedition, and they came across these little guys. But when they first captured the bat, they didn't know how great their discovery was going to be. One scientist said, and I quote, "We knew immediately that the bat we had captured was unusual and remarkable. The facial features were exaggerated to the point of being comical. It took them 3 years to then identify what species this bat belonged to. Once they did, that's when they realized that this bat was brought back to life." In our 9th spot, we have Catagonus wagneri. Back in the day, this animal was discovered from early fossil records. They were thought to be extinct, and people only knew about them because of the fossils. That was until 1974. That's when a biology professor from University of Connecticut rediscovered them while on a research expedition. In fact, the species was well known to the native people there. However, they are badly endangered. A huge population of them live in a 2,400-acre area in Gran Chaco. They hide out in the bushy, thorny areas so that they're safe from predators and local hunters. Sadly, only approximately 3,000 remain in the world.
At number 7 we have Gigantopithecus, also known as Big Monkey Man among scientists. This thing is basically Bigfoot. It's related to orangutans, so picture a ginger Bigfoot that is 3 meters tall and has a right hook that can cave your head in. These dudes were insanely strong. They had the relative strength to chimps, meaning you know how strong a chimp is for how small it is. Well, imagine a chimp that was 9 feet tall and weighed 1,200 pounds and had the strength to match. It could probably bench press 2 Honda Civics and the entire unmarked VHS collection in R. Kelly's house. That's a lot of weight. Yo, killing me with this! It's unknown what made this guy disappear, but a lot of people think it's because they started getting hunted by humans. We might have been hunting them for food, or it might have been just foresight on the side of our ancestors. If we let these guys evolve alongside with us, they would be dominating all the sports right now. At number 6 we have Gorgonops. So I'm just learning this now, but they were terrifying creatures even before the dinosaurs. I'm not surprised I didn't know this, I'm not a very bright person. The only things I really know about are video games and how to make very nice pancakes. Those are my only 2 skills. Beyond that, I'm useless. But this thing was king of the world way before the dinos were even a thing. Gorgonops holds the title for having one of the best names of all time and being one of the most dominant apex predators ever. It was kicking around 260 million years ago. It kinda looks like a cross between a bear and a lion and a crocodile, and it had massive teeth that it would use to destroy all its prey. Nothing stood a chance against Gorgonops. Y'all afraid of sharks? Well, you're gonna love this next one. At number 4 we have Pulmonoscorpius. Okay, this one by far is one of the grossest ones we've had on the list so far. This thing is a scorpion, except it was 3 feet long. Ugh. Yeah, no thanks dude, it's disgusting. And it has all the regular things that scorpions have. Big ass claws, 8 gross legs, a bunch of nasty eyes, a tail that's full of venom that can kill you in a very painful fashion. Yeah, this one's a big no thank you for me. It would take a lot more than a can of Raid to kill one of these things. Could you imagine one of these things working its way into your home? I wouldn't know if I'm supposed to kill it or adopt it. It's basically like a super gross dog. I feel like everyone watching this video is like, oh, those things would have been gross. And everyone in Australia is like, oh, gimbal gambles? We have those things every winter. At number 3 we have the Titanoboa, a big old snaky thing that's basically a giant boa constrictor, like massive, like 60 feet long, could swallow a car whole, and this thing still operates like a regular boa. It would crush its prey to death. What's the PSI on this thing, dude? It would have been crazy. It probably has enough grip strength to turn a piece of coal into a diamond and then crush that diamond into dust. It was super jacked. Like a giant flexible bicep waiting to squish things into a nice bite-sized package. This guy weighed around 2,000 pounds, bro. 2,000. If you're afraid of snakes, you probably already turned this video off, but you could imagine getting crushed by this thing. You wouldn't stand a chance. Your head would fly off like when you put Mentos in a Diet Coke. At number 2 we have a Theropleura. Yeah, we're keeping it gross with some more bugs. A Theropleura is a 10-foot long centipede that might have been too big and gross to have many predators. Imagine a centipede that is so big no one messes with it. It roams around freely with no laws, doing whatever it wants, not afraid of anything. That sounds like a nightmare come to life. These things have massive pincers for eating and could easily slice through your flesh. If it was a battle between one of these big, multi-legged freaks and John Bones Jones, I might take the bug. I'm just glad I live in a time where only house centipedes are a few inches long. If I came home to one of these things, I would probably have to put it on the lease.
Up in at number 10. Whoa, that guy's fast. What is that? His nose is like so long. Is this real? I don't even know what that is. I don't even know how to research this little guy. Okay, well apparently that was the elephant shrew, last known to be seen over 50 years ago, but it was rediscovered in August of 2020. These mighty little mouse-like creatures are thriving in Africa. Pretty cool something so small was able to evade a full extinction. So before we get into number 9, make sure you guys hit the like button on this video because it really helps us out. Alright, let's see what we have in at number 9.
The Tarsier is named... Whoa! Hello there, freaky. The Tarsier is named after its long, impressive bone in its ankle, you perv.
Okay, whoa, what is this little thing? So the animals on this list are pretty tiny. This one is no different. The Pygmy-taser of the taser family of the world's smallest primates hails from the depths of Indonesia. The taser still lives, but its Pygmy's cousin is said to have been extinct, until a man accidentally captured and killed one in a mousetrap in 2000. Since then, several Pygmy-tasers have been found and tagged in Indonesia, and it is believed that they no longer exist.
Great big, thin, membranous ears and those sharp teeth. More like those you'd see on a bat.
Okay, wait, first of all, I thought these things were cute, but they're pretty creepy if you asked me. Apparently these guys are adept predators for being able to fit in your palm of your hand. Pretty wild, but anyone else getting like the Baby Yoda vibes from this?
Perhaps it could live many centuries.
Number 7, Gigantosaurus. Gigantosaurus was a massive theropod dinosaur that lived around 98 million years ago. Gigantosaurus earned its name, which means giant southern lizard, because of its formidable size and strength. In terms of sheer size, Gigantosaurus was one of the largest theropod dinosaurs, rivaling even Tyrannosaurus rex. It could reach lengths of up to 40 feet or more, making it a top predator in its ecosystem. It had these really sharp teeth, some measuring over 6 inches long, which were designed for, of course, tearing through flesh. It had incredible hunting abilities. It was an apex predator. Its large size combined with its powerful jaws and sharp teeth allowed it to take down even the largest dinosaurs of its time. In at number 6 we have iguanodons. These were actually herbivores, so not as dangerous as some of the stuff on this list, but they were still very formidable creatures, and I think it wouldn't take kindly to humans walking up to them if they were walking around nowadays for some reason. These lived during the early Cretaceous period. It was a large dinosaur, reaching lengths of up to 33 feet and weighing several tons. They're known for that unique thumb spike, which would have been pretty useful for defending against predators. They also had a toothless beak at the front of their mouth, used for cropping vegetation. It could walk on both its hind legs and front limbs. This allowed it to browse for vegetation efficiently. It likely fed on a variety of plants, ferns, conifers, and other vegetation that was abundant during the time. Iguanodons were also one of the first dinosaurs to be scientifically described. Its fossils were discovered in the early 19th century and played a big role in shaping our understanding of dinosaurs during that time. Alright, iguanodons are cool, but not quite as terrifying as a lot of what's on this list. So let's get back to the bad boys, shall we? At number 5, we have the Spinosaurus. This is the main dino from Jurassic Park 3. I always thought this was a really cool one when I was a kid. These are often called the spine lizard. It was a colossal dinosaur that existed around 112 to 93 million years ago. These spines on its back could reach up to 7 feet in height. The dino itself was around 49 to 59 feet long and weighed in at 7 to 20 tons. Spinosaurus had an elongated snout filled with conical teeth suitable for catching slippery prey like fish. At first we thought it to be primarily a land-dwelling dinosaur, but more recent findings suggested it was more adapted to a semi-aquatic or even fully aquatic lifestyle. It had large clawed limbs specifically adapted for swimming. Next we have the Gigantoraptor. These things really creep me out. Imagine a turkey, like ostrich type thing, but the size of a house. It was about 16 feet long and stood around 11 feet tall, making it one of the largest feathered dinosaurs ever discovered. What makes Gigantoraptor truly interesting is its unusual combination of features. It had a beak like a bird, which hints at a diet of plants and small animals, but it couldn't fly. Scientists believe it might have used its large size as a defense mechanism against predators instead. Gigantoraptor was discovered in Mongolia, adding to the ever-expanding list of fascinating dinosaurs found in that region. When scientists unearthed its fossils, they were baffled and pretty excited all at once. It was massive, but had bird-like traits, which challenged what researchers thought they knew about dinosaurs' evolution at the time.